show. As always, I'm your host, Daniel, with my father and co host, Jerry. Say hi, Dad.
Hello.
This time we are reviewing Wonder Woman 1984, or as the poster has it, World War 84. Because it's WW 84. We did see this in. I know it's on video and in theaters right now. We did see this in theaters. Uh, and don't go see it in theaters, I think. I don't see any reason it didn't look particularly spectacular or anything. I think I should state for the record, I know I'm in a small minority here, and I don't know how much you are, but I didn't like the first Wonder Woman movie. I didn't think it was very good. I thought all the action scenes in the beginning were like really really bad. I thought the like middle part with a lot of Chris Pine and stuff was actually good, but the rest of it was either kind of boring or pretty terrible. I thought, especially all the battle scenes. I don't know what your opinion was on it. I don't really
Well, I believe
remember.
that too. I believe that the there was tremendous chemistry between Wonder Woman and Chris Pine,
Hmm.
and then they killed him off at the end.
Yes.
And I thought that was a major screw up
Hmm.
on the part of the thing. Uh, I I mean, my big problem with Wonder Woman is how they film it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and this well, I find this is a typical DC movie.
Hmm.
It's overly long.
Hmm.
It's, it's so long that somewhat several parts of it are boring.
Yeah.
They stick directly, if you go and you read through how to write a screenplay, they have the certain, you had the part where all is lost in the movie,
Yeah.
and there's nothing new.
Hmm.
It's strictly by the book, and it gets to be boring. And I like the first one better because I like the play between Chris Pine and Gail Gadot, or
Yeah.
whatever her name is. Uh, I didn't think Gail Gadot did a good job in the second one.
I didn't think she did a good job in the first
And
one.
Chris Pine had almost a zero part. The
Yeah.
big thing in the first one that made the movie, I thought, good was the repartee between Gadot and Chris Pine.
Yeah.
They had awesome chemistry. This one was sort of a
Well, you didn't even see their chemistry at all in this one, which is weird.
no, it was sort of after their love affair.
Yeah. Um.
Uh, you know, the chemistry in this movie was like the beginning of Romancing the Stone 2, where each of them hated each other.
Yeah. No, they didn't have like any
Yeah.
chemistry or anything. And like talking about this movie is overly long. And by the book, being by the book is fine. There's a lot of great movies that are almost solely by the book to a certain degree. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, Star Wars is Hero with a Thousand Faces, New Hope, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and it's a masterpiece. Rocky is very similar, but like when we talk about it being overly long, there's a lot of stuff in this movie that easily could have been cut. It has two openings,
Yeah.
and one of them has no point really in the movie, except I guess like at the end they start talking about the truth. But it's like it has probably the worst part in which the little kid throws a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it like makes the character all that much worse because she's just this little child that's beating everybody in this race. And if you pay attention, it changes by how much she's beating them by tremendously.
Yeah.
And there's no real like on it. And then they say she took the shortcut or something or some short path and cheated when there's no real rules established.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and she didn't really take a short path. She just got off the horse.
Yeah.
Or got knocked
Of
off
course,
the
you got
horse.
knocked off the horse.
Yeah, but it's not like she lost because she was also worse than them. She lost because she wasn't paying attention and got cocky.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. And then I actually, and so that whole like, first off, it wasn't that good of action. It wasn't that interesting. It wasn't anything really.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, the one big thing I think is you look at the Spider-Man sequels where
Mhm.
he's web swinging through the
Yeah, that will come up.
and and this one she web swings, but the filming you never see her as the actual swinger. You just see her swinging.
Yeah, well, you see her like way in like, and that's like, there's a lot of problems with like the action in this movie. I think it was better than the first one, but it's better than the first one in the fact that like in this time she can actually get hurt
Yeah.
and she doesn't just murder people, like she did in the last one where she just murdered people.
The
Um,
You're right about the thing that it has two openings. They
yeah.
had the first opening, the cold opening before the credits,
Hmm.
and then they actually start off with a second opening where it's sort of the scene where you're trying to enhance the lead character or trying to get the audience to fall in love with him, where she goes out and catches the bad guys.
Yeah, and um, like, and that like, in that scene, the second opening, I don't have any problem with. I think it was a fine opening.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't that great or creative or anything. There was really no stress in it, but whatever. I think it could have been a lot of fun. But it went like, oh look, this is the '80s, this is the '80s, this is the '80s,
yeah,
and then does nothing with it being the '80s.
yes,
Like literally, it has that where, oh, this is the '80s. It's called Wonder Woman 1984. It has nothing to do with the book 1984 at all.
yeah, and
The plot, the premise, it doesn't. Uh, it doesn't make use of technology. It doesn't make use of any of that really. It doesn't really. It kind of makes use of the Cold War, I guess, but you could do the same thing in any time period from essentially since they invented nukes. Um, uh, so
yeah.
it doesn't like do any of that. And like and like I said, and like you said, how it made you like try to like the character and stuff and show her off and like
Yeah,
how cool she is and badass and
yeah,
funny and whatnot. We just had a scene where she beat up all these, she destroyed all these people that were full grown adults as a child, and then threw a temper tantrum. I hate this character. Um, and I mean, one of the reasons I think this movie's slightly better than the last one is they have a lot less of that child actress. I don't
hmm,
know if it's the same child actress, but the child actress I remember in the first one was just god awful, and all of her scenes could be cut.
yeah.
But a lot of things in this movie could be cut because they don't serve any purpose.
Hmm. Well, the other thing is it said 1984, and besides from the only song I remembered, and I know most of the songs of the 1980s,
Mm-hmm.
was the Duran Duran one.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up. I don't remember any. I don't remember any '80s music in this. I don't even
Well,
remember the soundtrack sounding '80s.
yeah, it didn't sound anything like the 80s. In fact, I thought that in most places the soundtrack was inappropriate for what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, I didn't figure the music actually made it, and certainly it wasn't out of the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Like I said, you could have had some like, and if you're gonna do this, have some fun with it. Like I know Wonder Woman already has that terrible yeah, terrible like theme song or whatever, the yeah with the guitar. But you could have done that in like a synth thing or something '80s about it,
yeah,
or make it more '80s. But they didn't. There's like there's no point in putting this movie in the '80s.
no.
There's absolutely
And they
no.
really didn't put it in the 80s. It
Yeah.
didn't seem. I mean, the the tanks looked like they were 2020 tanks.
Yeah,
They
the
didn't look like
cars.
they didn't look like 1980 tanks.
Yeah, I didn't notice that as much, but
Yeah,
uh, and I think I didn't notice that as much is because like that scene itself, that action scene was by far the best in the movie. I thought
yeah,
because one, I could tell what was happening to it. Two, she could actually get hurt.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, her powers are a bit inconsistent in the screen. But I'm going to talk about that later. Some of that, but and I mean, it had a stupid ending, but one of the problems in like the last Wonder Woman movie, I thought that like the fact like nobody could do anything to her,
Hmm.
which made it worse that she was just murdering people. But like in the last movie, she never got hurt.
Hmm.
And in this one, like she begins to lose her powers or whatever, because of like this wishing stone and stuff. And I kind of want to talk about that because it's they say it takes away the thing most valuable to you, and it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Because like um, the one guy, the main villain, the Mandalorian, I forget his name, like Pedro Pascal or
Yeah.
something. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I don't remember who he is in the movie either, even though they say his name a bunch. Um, it doesn't take away his son or his relationship with his son. Wonder Woman, it begins to take away her powers, which should be like the exact opposite of things that are most important to her,
Yeah.
um, or something. And I don't even know what it says. It takes Kristen Wiig's like compassion or whatever, and that, or but we never see that before.
Yeah.
She was nice to a homeless guy once,
Yeah.
and I mean she only really has like one scene before she makes the wish or anything, and they only meet like once before she made the wish. So I
Yeah.
don't know how Wonder Woman knows that about her. But it's just I don't know. It just like it seemed a bit all over the place with all the things they were trying to do.
Hmm.
Because you had this wish thing, you had kind of the story about the main villain and his son that didn't really go anywhere until the very
Yeah.
end. You had like her bring back Steve Trevor, Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Um, which why did he look different than he did when he was
Yeah.
alive? Like that served no purpose,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
I mean, I like that all could have been cut in one of the, it would, well, first off, this movie's overly long, so it would have helped a lot, but you wouldn't have lost anything. And it shows him as Steve Pine through most of it. I mean, Chris Pine. I'm
Yeah.
getting the two, Steve Trevor and Chris
Yeah.
Pine, mixed up.
Yeah.
Um, um, so I didn't get that. Like, I didn't get like at least like the first Wonder Woman had a lot of jokes in it.
Hmm.
This one didn't seem to have as many.
No.
Like you had the one clothes changing montage scene,
Hmm.
and then you have the invisible jet, I guess, but they didn't do any jokes with that.
Hmm.
And it was
Well,
just
yeah. I mean, she didn't have the actual invisible jet.
yeah, she can turn a jet invisible, but
Yeah,
it's
she
still
turns the
visible from
jet.
the inside, so it's not visible from the outside.
Yeah.
And I don't know where she got this power from, because she just
No.
seems to get powers randomly. And at
No.
this
No.
point, she's supposed to be losing her powers. So I don't know. It's just it's kind of confusing to talk about because the movie itself is very scatterbrained. Um, uh, like I said, you have the two villains in it, the Mandalorian and Kristen Wiig, but they only meet once really, and then they join up at the end. I guess
Yeah.
they might meet twice. I don't. I'm trying to remember because it seems like a lot of the scenes in this movie could just be placed at any other point in the movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of confusing because of that. I should have actually written some more stuff down because I know it sounds like scatterbrained, but I mean the movie's just all over the place. Like the guy's like this oil tycoon slash television personality slash scam possible scam artist, but he's
Yeah.
actually trying to make good on it. Yet he also knows all this stuff about some wishing stone that's in the back of some that was originally in the back of some uh, jewelry shop that was also selling antiques that gets robbed at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which like if you okay,
The
you have the
movie
cold
was
opening of the
overly
robbing.
long, but
Yeah.
doesn't explain hardly anything.
Well,
Well,
yeah. But like
it,
to go back to that, the stones at a jewelry shop that's also like a front for selling artifacts that people are robbing that she comes in and saves.
yeah.
You didn't need that. You could have had the university just get the stone
Yeah.
and like still have her just and them just robbing the jewelry store.
And
It
we
makes it a
never,
lot less confusing and convoluted.
we they take too long to tell the story of the
Yeah.
stone. The stone should, I mean, we don't really,
Hmm.
it's sort of, well, this is a wishing stone, and this is this, and this is that. And we finally get down to the story where we find the guy who's a Mayan who says, yeah, this is a stone that came down to us that grants you all your wishes. All of a sudden, we know what it is.
Yeah, but it takes something.
Yeah,
And I think that's after they already fly over to try to like stop the guy, and they know something's up with the stone.
yeah,
Which like it would be fine, but you need to establish the rules of the stone first before they really start using it.
yeah,
Like you can have one or two wishes, but by at that point you already had the guy knew the main villain knew the rules of it. You had Kirsten Wiig's wish, and Wonder Woman's wish,
yeah.
and like it says it takes the thing most dear to you, which like to me it's a weird thing to say. Like the thing most dear to Wonder Woman were her superpowers,
Yeah,
because isn't that like kind of a sociopath
yeah.
and more of a super villain?
Mhm.
Uh, but I don't know too much about Wonder Woman in the comics or anything. Uh, I mean, I saw the Justice League stuff as a kid, but um, even then, it just seems weird and like I never really got what it took from Kirsten Wiig. They just kind of said it took these things, and it doesn't take anything from the Mandalorian. So everything it
Yeah.
takes, it's his own fault. But like one of the problems with this one, and it was more so actually than the last one, is she just gets powers out of nowhere. She's supposed to be losing her powers throughout it, but then she can turn the jet invisible. She can, when she gets her power backs, like I can't tell if she can fly or what she's doing with or if it's just the lasso and she's lassoing onto things. Did
Well,
you?
they did both of those.
Yeah,
It looked like she could fly like Superman.
yeah. And I do know, I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman can fly. I'm pretty sure she can in the comic books. I'm not 100% certain. I really don't remember too much about her. Um,
But
uh,
then she lassos onto the clouds also.
yeah, or like lightning, which her lassoing onto lightning is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like, but like in like lassoing onto a jet plane. But
yeah,
like they never established like the lasso's infinite length because the jets fly 30,000 feet in the air.
yeah.
They never and like um, and she's apparently immune to electricity.
Well,
Um,
that was the
that,
last scene with electricity. Usually,
mhm.
I expected her to jump out of the water
Yeah, or
all of
something.
a sudden and let the other girl fall in.
But also like how strong they are, you wouldn't think just an electrical current would like do that to her.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know why she'd be when Kirsten Wiig's wishes that she wants to be like uh, Wonder Woman, which is also like, hey, the villain in the story is the villain because she wants to be like the hero.
yeah,
You probably don't have that good of a hero.
yeah.
Um, like I don't know, a lot of this. The ending fight scene's terrible too between her and. I couldn't tell what was going on.
It was too
Like,
dark.
yeah, it was too dark. Like, I actually thought their idea was kind of cool of Wonder Woman swinging with the lasso and her swinging off the power lines.
Yeah,
I thought that was like actually pretty cool and pretty clever.
yeah.
But I legitimately couldn't tell what was going on at all.
Now,
And okay,
though, as you said, the one fight scene that they did with the trucks was reasonably good.
yeah, it was reasonably good. It had a stupid ending though. Uh, like just like a very Deus Ex Machina ending. Like there's these kids on this abandoned road strip.
Yeah.
Uh, and like that didn't work. And her powers were a bit too inconsistent at that point.
Mhm.
Which you could like if they were showing her gaining and losing powers up to that point, it would have been fine.
Mhm.
But like one of my problems also with this movie is that it's very Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
Um, because if you remember Spider-Man 2, he loses his powers into it. But he kind of gets what he wants because of it. But he realizes that like he can't kind of have both ways. Um, he's he talks down the villain at the end. Obviously, there's web slinging compared to her doing that, but like in this one, like she's. I mean, one of the problems is she's in the sky when she's doing it, so there's no difference, and you can't tell how far she's moving.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like we're nitpicking, like a lot of things that usually we kind of ignore in a movie, I think, but because I think there's just so much of that in this movie. Like, um, this got me like she's doing this whole scene with her going through the sky, but then she goes like, and it seems like she's heading towards the place. But then apparently she went back to her apartment that we know is in D.C., which is where she was at the time, to go get the armor to fly over.
Yeah.
I mean, like, did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, like I caught that during the movie, but like I'm right, right? That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happened. All of a sudden, she came up with the armor.
Yeah, and like I'm
I
fine.
caught that. I mean, all of a sudden, she got a bunch of armor to fight the thing.
Yeah, they did introduce the armor earlier,
Mhm.
and they kind
Yeah.
of talked about it,
Mhm.
but we never see the armor. We don't know what its abilities are before that, too. Like
Mhm.
all we see is the person like cloaks herself in it to protect her,
Yeah.
which like I'm sure there's other things that did it, but it actually really reminded me of the most recent God of War game, the Valkyries. And it doesn't help that the design of the wings and stuff is very similar to their design.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure there's other things that have done stuff like that and how they use their wings to protect them. But it was really, really like uncomfortably close looking to it. And I'm not sure like, and I don't think I'm not sure if that was like somebody from the props department or just this total coincidence. I don't want to like blame anybody or anything, but it like that really distracted me as somebody who's played that game.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking about in the game I'm talking about is not an obscure game. It's
Yeah.
like it was one of the highest selling games of the year it came out, which was like 3 years ago. But uh, what was some of the other stuff? I actually like. I will comment like the chase scene in the cars and the fight scene when they're in the White House
Well,
aren't that bad.
the fight scene in the White House, I thought was a good fight scene.
Yeah, I'd actually say that was like a fairly decent one.
They
Uh,
had some. They didn't have anything that was especially creative, but it was
yeah,
not. It,
like first off, they actually made good use of both of the people,
yeah.
Diana and Chris Pine.
Yes.
Um, both had different abilities going on. In it, and you had like the thing that like, oh, he can't shoot them because uh, they're just being controlled by people and they're not
Yeah.
evil
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that. And like I said, this movie does like I will say it does address my complaint of the original movie in which she just murdered people.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't. I mean, you can't have a character like Superman killing
Hmm.
people, regular human beings. And they had that in the first one, and that was really awkward in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like even during World War II or something.
Yeah.
Um, but or like a World War, I guess it was World War One in that one. But I mean, it seems like they actually like in this like they actually set up a lot of things that were good ideas. Like I thought like having the villain as some like '80s infomercial kind of con man.
Yeah.
And I mean, they even bring up like a tell what is it, televangelists or whatever, the TV religious people that are scammers.
Yeah.
Like they even have one in that, and they kind of bring him up, but they don't do anything with it. The fact
No.
he's like that, like I mean, in the fact first off, like he's not like it's fine not making him a complete monster. Like he has a kid that he clearly cares about
Yeah.
and is stressed out of it and is trying to like, and they like again, don't show the villain's like kind of backstory to make him likable and show there's more there just before he decides to make a choice
Yeah.
or that doesn't work. We need to know it before that. Um, but um, oh, another power the Last Lord of Truth apparently has is it can show people the truth. Now it doesn't just make them tell it. Again, I don't know if that's in the comic books, but that's just another power it just randomly has in this movie.
Hmm.
Um, which is one of the problems is they just have she just keeps getting different powers.
Yeah.
Um, but like they do that in. I think the guy like again the Mandalorian. I'm Pedro Pascal or Pedis.
Yeah.
I really don't remember his name, and
Hmm.
I feel bad because I'm sure I'm slaughtering it. Because he's great in the Mandalorian. But like, I think he does the best with what he's given.
Hmm.
Um, in this, and like I said, this movie was kind of weird to me because it never made me angry at it or as bored as I was with the original. But it doesn't have any parts that I actually liked in it. Because I like the chemistry between the two, and I don't know how like not having as good as dialogue or as much fun between them is fine is like something I can understand. But I don't know how they made it so it seemed like excuse me that they had no chemistry in this one.
They had no chemistry, no. Well, they didn't have any scenes in which they would have chemistry.
You kind of have the like fireworks and the jet or whatever,
Yeah.
but like that could have been cut.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of things in this movie that could have just been cut or shortened or
Yeah.
that.
But they come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They're in
Uh,
the jet, and all of a sudden, it isn't a romantic time or anything. All of a sudden, they have fireworks. They're actually heading off to go
yeah, and
after the
like,
bad guy.
and they just say, "Oh, it's the 4th of July,"
Yeah.
and they just can like, and I like I said, usually I wouldn't nitpick this stuff so much, but there's just so much of it. Like, it's just so easy for them to steal a jet.
Yeah.
Too. They don't really.
And
Mhm.
the one the big scene with the clothing,
Yeah.
which obviously was a tendency for comedy. I don't think they got any real good comedy in it. It
Well,
was just poorly written.
well, here's the thing. You could have a lot of fun with Avi's clothing.
Yeah.
Because Avi's clothing was terrible and bizarre and surreal.
Yeah.
And like and like I'm sorry, I don't like meaning to describe this derogatory term, but like gay.
Yeah.
Like things that try to be masculine and macho and stuff just look gay.
Yeah.
Like they look like they belonged in a leather bar or something.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of humor that can be had with that. Like
Hmm.
in general, but they didn't really have that. They had some of the stuff in it, but
Well, they shouldn't have done the clothes changing in her room,
mhm.
and I couldn't actually figure out why
Why
she'd
did
have a bunch of male clothes in her room.
that was something I was going to bring up too. Why did she have all this male clothing in her room?
And they should have went in the clothing shop, and they should have had other people who had the clothes on as
Yeah,
well
or
as him.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they had the one
I
scene
don't
where
get this clothing, and then he sees a half dozen other people with it
they
on.
had the one scene where they like go and like you see all the like punk people or whatever,
Yeah,
and like he's just kind of watching them and stuff, which I actually like. I kind of liked some of that stuff that he was just kind of watching and observing because the time period's so different from his own,
yeah.
which is what somebody would do. Which, but they also do that with Captain America.
Hmm.
Um, this borrows so much from a lot of the Marvel movies,
Yeah.
uh, which is fine, but doesn't do it as well.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, and like I said, there's just so many like little things like that. They're just like, oh, it's the 4th of July and there's fireworks. Uh, which these two characters already love each other. We already
Yeah.
had that, so they don't need a romantic scene like that. Um, and you could cut it. Uh, you have this. You have this ending where all of a sudden they start talking about the truth and whatnot.
Yeah.
And was there like really much of that throughout the whole movie?
Well, they started at the beginning one.
Yeah, they started like with the first opening, but is that anywhere else in the whole movie?
No.
And also, as
And what
somebody that
was this about truth anyhow? I
yeah,
mean,
and it was essentially like don't cheat or do the honest thing in the race that I didn't know had any rules or like she missed the one checkpoint or
she missed the one checkpoint.
yeah or something, but she didn't really because she also passed it.
Yeah.
She just didn't hit it. I don't. Uh, but and again, you don't like that was the worst scene when she grabbed her and she just whines and throws
Yeah.
a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Uh, but I mean, it again had the thing that she's invulnerable and super special and awesome and blah blah blah. But
Oh, she was just a kid, and then she
Yeah,
was.
and she was beating adults, but like also like, and to just go back like and to do this like thing that because we've been like pointing out on this, she's beat up in the scene and like fairly beat up, like she's bleeding and stuff in the scene before like when she's talking to blah. I mean it's Steve Trevor, but Chris Pine, and then like says, "Okay, I renounce my wish, so things can go back to normal," and she gets it back.
Yeah.
But then when she's going through the clouds, she's fine. So does she have a healing factor? Is it just inconsistency? Like has a certain amount of time passed? Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like there's a lot of these like little things that are either like just inconsistent or a new superpower or just like I don't know. I feel like this script needed to be like gone through a second time or something,
Yeah.
or some of these scenes because I'm like because I didn't know if like she just was able to like heal that quickly or and I'm not sure like because she doesn't renounce her powers. Like it's not like she renounces him and then walks on screen and is healed. It's she's walking on screen and like says, "Okay, I renounce my wish," and stuff, um, and then is fine. And then like, but then when she's like flying through the air, or I know when she at least arrives at the Kristen Wiig part, which a huge amount of time cannot have passed from that point. Uh, but I don't know, like, um, oh, I guess like I need to track that back. The Mandalorian, they did say it was taking his health,
Yeah.
the wish, his wish or whatever,
Mhm.
allegedly, because they said it took nothing from him. But like, wouldn't it take his relationship with his kid or something?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that how the monkey paw works? Is that it takes something you don't expect? Like, it's not just like, um, it's like that joke from Rick and Morty in which there's a cologne that makes you all women want you, but you're impotent. Uh, and then he cures that.
Yes.
Um, but it's like it just takes his health, and then like the first thing he doesn't do is get somebody to wish for something and then take their health or something. Because all of a sudden he can choose what he wants to take and doesn't explain that. It just doesn't explain it. It doesn't explain. The movie's like 2.5 hours and it doesn't explain anything. Um, like obviously at the end they get him to renounce his wish or something, which apparently then renounces almost all the wishes. But then they show the people renouncing their wishes, so I don't know how that worked. And like the nukes are disappearing, but everything's still trashed. And um, I wonder if everyone still had a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That was actually a joke
Mhm.
that like was funny,
Yes.
but you should have seen it.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of
That.
people all of a sudden have Lamborghinis or something. Like he says
Yeah.
that, then see a bunch of them. Uh, like they talk about how it's parting traffic if there were all these like hundreds of Lamborghinis that were getting parted,
Yeah.
uh, or something like that. But like again, and then like oh we have this technology that broadcasts to all televisions and something through radio waves, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I was thinking like this is the 80s. They had cable.
Yeah.
Most TV like it would have to do it to the cable stations or something. And it's like doing it on that and computers, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't matter the fact that it's in the 80s
Yeah.
at all.
They didn't really. As I said, they didn't even. You have it in the '80s, but you don't play the music.
Yeah, you don't play the music. Um, and like again to go back to the nitpicking thing, they take off in a jet, but they're not feeling any of the effects of the acceleration on it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like I haven't spent like we saw the movie yesterday. I haven't spent much time thinking about it. But all these things are just coming to mind, and I've seen the movie once. I mean, and it's So I don't want to be like, and I'm insofar like in my reviews, we haven't really been like this.
Hmm.
I mean, we point out some weird things in the flight attendant, but I mean, it has a lot of stuff like that.
You
Uh,
know and the thing is, they could have had some that are recognizable,
yeah,
especially for 1984. I mean, everybody can recognize the big songs in 1984 were, well, the biggest one was Prince's "When Doves Cry."
yeah. You don't have like,
Almost everybody would recognize that. What's love got to do with it? Footloose.
yeah, you don't have any
Against
like,
all odds. Yeah.
you don't
Jump.
have any
Yeah.
music from the time. Like Guardians of the Galaxy did that a lot better. In Guardians of the Galaxy, he wasn't even like it wasn't even set in the 80s. It was set in modern times. It just he had a tape from the 80s. But like I said, it never like with the exception of the opening scene and some of the stuff like when Steve Trevor is going around, it
Yeah.
never felt like it was the 80s.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just gonna say this: you should not have in a comic book movie probably people talking about the truth because there's a really famous comic book called The Brat Pack, which is super dark and super mean spirited and is a heavy criticism on sidekicks and the idea of them. And
Yeah.
the main villain of that spouts about the truth throughout the whole thing. And the truth is in the story is that the superheroes are killing their sidekicks off and are only having them because it makes them money. Uh,
Yeah.
so I so it was something that I found really awkward when they started talking about it afterwards. Like, because I thought about that, I'm like, because I feel like people that are working on these comic book movies should know about that one. Because while it's not like as mainstream as like Watchmen or like The Dark Knight Returns or something like that, it's still very well known and very famous in comic book circles.
Yeah.
Um, it's one that like consistently gets compared to those in them. And if it had probably a bit better of an ending, it would be considered ranked up there with them. Uh, I know it has like two endings though, so I'm not sure like which one. I've only read the first one, but and again, like the truth thing, like they start talking about the truth in the movie that it talks about like how the movie's about essentially like what you trade a wish that it's again a monkey paw movie. What are you willing to sacrifice to gain something? And then you're talking about the truth in it. And then the guy gives up his wish not for his health but for his son.
Hmm.
So it didn't take the thing that was most important to him.
Yeah.
And the only reason I know his health is important to him is because that's what's affecting it. And they mentioned twice like his vitamins. But like this one didn't get nearly as good of reviews as the first Wonder Woman did. Uh,
Hmm.
but like I still think like I mean it's still like almost everything wrong with the DC movies before like Shazam and Aquaman is wrong with this movie. Um, with the exception of they don't just murder people and it actually has color to it. But it's not even an 80s color palette. Like they don't have like neon colors or like it's not like shot with like the 80s like uh colors from like this cinematography or anything. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
um, but like I said, I'm just like I
Yeah.
and something else I need to mention. Gal Gadot still does a bunch of modeling poses and everything. Um, that was like one of the main things that everybody criticized in the last one, along with the ending, which I've heard Warner Brothers actually forced the director to have that ending. So I can't really blame her for it, even though that was the worst part of the movie. Um, but she still does a bunch of modeling poses, which aren't intimidating and just look stupid.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I still don't think she's a very good Wonder Woman, but a lot of people tend to disagree with me. I don't know. Like, I'm sorry if this episode seems a bit scatterbrained and nitpicky, but it has, like, the problems in this movie don't just happen once. They
Mhm.
happen multiple times, and they're the
Yeah.
same problem, I think.
Hmm.
Or they happened in that. Or they've happened in the other DC movies a lot, like um, a terrible CGI villain at the end that looks terrible
Hmm.
in general. Though I do think they did like change the CGI of the face because it looks less like a. And I'm not sure if I'm just like uh, forgetting how it first looked in the trailers,
Yeah.
or just getting the two mixed up with cats since I saw so many memes about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and like I said, they don't have that bad of an idea for like it's interesting to have a villain to wish like shouldn't have wished to be like Diana should have wished to be like Wonder Woman, but have lost all like the compassion and things that makes Wonder Woman that they
Yeah.
admire that she admired about her.
Yeah.
Like the heroics, the compassion, the kind-heartedness, not just the strength and all that, and have that be your villain, a person whose wish like is noble, but again, monkey paw,
Yeah.
or like even like an '80s television personality uh that's a scammer or something you could
Mhm.
easily turn into a villain and a good villain, but you do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Like the fact he's a television personality, they do nothing with.
Well, he's too many things.
Yeah, he's too
He's
many
a
things.
he's a real estate guy. He's a
He's an oil
television person. Oil, yeah.
he's an oil
Oh.
baron. He's an investor. He's a scammer. He's
Mhm.
that. He's like
Now he could have been running a Ponzi scheme on oil,
yeah,
and all of a sudden he goes over there to buy some more oil.
yeah.
But he didn't. I mean,
Like they mentioned like oh what you're running is a Ponzi scheme, but it doesn't seem like he intended it to be a Ponzi scheme.
no.
Um, like I said, and then like once he gets the ability to get like take stuff from people that make wishes or whatever,
Yeah.
he's still getting oil. Like I never figured out what his main goal was. Like at first it looked like it was to get rich and like to provide for himself and his son, but that didn't really have anything to do with it either. Uh, he just didn't seem to have a goal
No.
other than to grant wishes. Like, and his main goal, he could have like you could have had him talk about how he wants to make all these people wealthy and improve the standard of living and everything and blah 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 blah. And like his passion and stuff gets twisted. But like they literally mentioned the monkey's paw in this movie. That's why I keep using it. But it never seems like a monkey paw.
Hmm.
It never seems like any of
Yeah.
that. It just like it seems like the first draft of something. It doesn't even seem like that. It seems like they wrote down a bunch of like ideas they wanted to have in it, and just went with those. They didn't cut anything. They didn't do any of that. Which I think again shows how much I dislike the first one because I still think this one's better than it.
Yeah.
Not by much, but just because I was never like. Well, I think it's shorter first off,
Yeah.
and doesn't have as nearly as many of my main problems with that. But I just don't like. Again, I don't understand like DC's like how they keep having the same problems in their movies over and over again.
Well, I
I guess
think they.
Zack Snyder's still producing, so that might be why. But
I think some of it is they try to use all the superpowers,
mhm.
and you know, yes, you use your superpowers, but your superpowers are only part of the fight,
Yeah,
and you don't need to use them all. I mean, well, they ought to look at Spider-Man and see how you use web swing.
yeah. Well, they
And Spider-Man, one of the great scenes in it is when he's web streaking for no reason whatsoever.
yeah. Well, it's cool looking and stuff, and that's what makes a lot of the Spider-Man video games so fun. Is
Yeah,
web slinging's fun.
You know, why didn't she take Chris Pine on a web swing?
Yeah, or something. Why didn't like I said, like Spider-Man thing, like you actually in Spider again, like I'm gonna go back to Spider-Man 2. You actually like he beats Doc Ock by appealing to his humanity.
Yeah,
And this one she beats him by quote unquote showing him the truth or whatever.
yeah,
But uh and I mean it's essentially the same thing, but the one's so much better because you're just talking to the person.
yeah,
And it's so much more intimate and stuff than like showing him. But like but and she has no relationship with this guy either, which
yeah,
hurts it. But like, it's one of those things where you show him what you lost, or you show him what the thing took from him. But it doesn't seem like I said, it took his health, not his kid,
yeah,
not his or his relationship with his kid. Um, they could have like, I don't know. The problem is everything in this movie I've seen it done much better.
yeah.
Um, the truck chase is very similar to the one in Indiana Jones. Um, the web slinging is very similar to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of the fight scenes are very similar to other things. I mean, I know you kind of run into a problem with superhero movies when a guy with a gun can't just stop the superhero by shooting him,
Yeah.
or like something. Like I mean, like I know like Wolverine can't like be stopped by like getting shot by a gun, but you can like one person can legitimately tackle Wolverine and hold him to the ground.
Yeah.
He's strong, but he's strong for a human.
Hmm.
Uh, and um, and obviously the best movie is when he's dying from his powers too. So,
Yeah.
uh, but uh, you have like I know you kind of run into an issue with that and what you're gonna do, like to stop it, and like losing her powers isn't a bad thing, but you need to be a bit more consistent with it.
Hmm.
Because mind you, before they say she's losing her powers or anything, she's in a whole action scene,
Yeah.
and that's not revealed until the end of the action scene. And you never have a moment like, oh, I'm shot, why am I bleeding, or something. But then she just like, again, for a character that wishes for all the same powers and stuff she has, and then wishes to be stronger because for some reason she gets a second wish,
Yeah.
gets beat by getting electrocuted
Hmm.
from a power line.
Yeah. That was the thing. Nobody else could get the second wish,
Yeah, nobody else got a second wish.
but she
Like the
did.
power line didn't affect Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
Uh, so like, and like I like and with how the villain's powers were running out since he wished to be the stone, I could see him like doing some other wish, but he'd have to take it from somebody, so I don't know. I don't know where he took it from. And like I said, one or two of these things isn't a deal breaker for me, but there's
Yeah.
just so many of them in this movie, and I've only seen this movie once, and and we've caught so many of them.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this movie overall. I don't even really think it's worth watching on like if you have HBO Max because there's better things you can watch on HBO Max. Like, I mean, you can watch Soul on Disney Plus right now, which is a much better movie. Um, I wasn't particularly a big fan of News of the World, which we'll probably talk about on the next one, but you can watch that in theaters, and it's a better movie. And even if it
Better
wasn't, it
act.
was shorter
Yeah.
and had at least pretty good acting in it and good directing.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I
Yeah.
said, I just like I didn't get why people liked the first one so much, and I'm like, well, maybe if you just like uh watch the scenes with Wonder Woman and Chris Pine and then fell asleep through the rest of it, it was fine.
Hmm.
But
There definitely was great chemistry between,
yeah, and
and you know, you sort of felt sorry for him when they killed him off at the end.
yeah,
Bringing him back in this movie didn't
but
really help him because they didn't go back to the chemistry. They
yeah,
didn't go back to the romance or anything.
mhm. But he also essentially did nothing.
Yeah, he
Like
did
there was
nothing.
nothing he did in the movie that she really couldn't have done. Like
Hmm.
literally, the reason they sold a jet is because she didn't have a passport.
Yeah,
Um, and like, and it's also one of the things that she's still down in the dumps and sad about this guy after 60 years,
Mhm.
and like it's still kind of ruining her life and stuff. And it's like,
Uh,
um,
what did I mean? 1984 has significance in our history.
yeah, well,
And they didn't actually go anything on that.
there was nothing Orwellian. I guess like the thing to take over all the TVs was somewhat Orwellian, but they were like, yeah, this was due to spread propaganda in opposite countries or whatever. Like I said, the president wasn't even a stand-in for Reagan.
No,
I guess he wished for something probably Reagan would, but uh,
but he didn't wish for a bad thing.
no, he wished like because he was worried about something with the Soviets and all the stuff the other guy did, and uh, like I said before, we never got this guy was a sociopath, but all of a sudden he's doing all these wishes that are destroying things.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's gonna blow up the world, and also like I don't know, just a lot of the stuff. It feels very much. It doesn't even really feel like the first draft of a script. It feels like they used all the note cards for the script
Yeah.
almost. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna find out like this was a mess behind. Like this movie has, in my opinion, all the makings of people saying it was a mess behind the scenes. Uh, but who knows? I don't have anything more to say, and I've talked way too much about this. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about on
No,
this
I
one?
don't believe so.
Okay, I think this is our longest episode.
Yeah.
It didn't even devolve us into us yelling about Facebook. So,
Yeah.
okay, if you like this for some reason, please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube as well as Twitch. Follow us. Thank you all and have a nice night.